Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to Elevate Online 6. I'm so glad you're joining. We are still in our series called Reflection, and in this series, we take a look at a part of Jesus' character, a part of who Jesus was, and we talk and walk through how we need to be modeling that and work on improving that aspect of our life. And so I'm going to start off with a famous story. It is the Samaritan woman at the well. And before we hop into the text and we start reading that, I have a question for you, which is, what does it mean to be kind, and who do you need to be kind to? And so I want you to continue to think about that one as we now start to read the story and walk through what's happening in it. And so if you want to, grab your own Bible and read along, we'll be in John chapter 4, starting with verse 1. And so if you want to do that, you can pause me, you can go grab your own Bible, pull it up on another tab, whatever you need to do. And I'm going to start reading it, and we're going to walk through the story. And so verse 1 through 3. Now when Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard what that Jesus was making and baptizing more disciples than John, although Jesus himself did not baptize, but only his disciples, he left Judea and departed again for Galilee. And so Jesus is now kind of on the run, just because from the Pharisees, because they are not happy with the success that Jesus is having. And so he starts to leave, just so he's not in the place where the Pharisees would be able to grab him in Jerusalem. So he's going towards Galilee. And I don't have a map for you, but if he's going to Galilee from Jerusalem, there's two ways. There's a really long way. You can go around, or you can go through Samaria. And so Jesus is going through Samaria. He is not avoiding it. And so that is the context you need to have. So Jesus is on his way, kind of fleeing for his life, or at least fleeing for his safety from the Pharisees, going through Samaria on his way to Galilee. And so, and then verse 4 says that he's headed past through Samaria. And so then he arrives in verse 5 and 6, and it's late in the day. So sun is kind of high up. Typically, water level is low. If you're a boat kind of person, we're nautical area. And so all of this is going on. He goes over and he finds a well. It's a very famous well in the town. It's Samaritan well that was made by Jacob, where he drew water. And so this is an important well. But no one's going to be there because, again, so the water level is low because when the sun gets up and tide happens and water levels typically drop. And so with this, Jesus is now hanging out at a well, and a woman walks up and she has all of her buckets that she's going to collect the water with, which is not typical of the time. You don't usually come and get your water when it's the hardest to get. And so you obviously kind of start knowing now, if you have the context, that she's avoiding people for a reason. And so um, when she walks up, Jesus then asks her for a cup of water. He says, "Give me a drink." Because the disciples are gone. They're getting food in the city. They're shopping at a Walmart. And the woman says to him, "How is it that you, a Jew, would ask a drink from me, a woman of Samaria?" And then even in parentheses says, "For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans." So just so you didn't know, if you didn't know that Jews and Samaritans did get along, it's like, listen, this is weird. And so John makes sure you understand the context that this is not a normal conversation that would happen. Um, and so this woman's even kind of shocked by it. I mean, there's this Jewish guy who is hanging out. He looks like he has a look of a teacher, and he is just sitting by this well. And I bet you she kind of didn't even make eye contact with him when she's walking up. There's this whole awkward like, I'm just gonna do my thing. I'm gonna leave, and we're not gonna talk, interact. And he's like, "Hey, can you give me a drink?" And she's like, I'm a Samaritan woman. You're a Jewish man. This doesn't usually happen. And then John's like, this doesn't usually happen. And so Jesus is already, just by acknowledging her, showing kindness. Typically, if she was kind of walking and trying to do this in shame, it would kind of be normal to ignore her. It wouldn't be a typical thing that you would, acknowledge her in any way, even. And so, especially in a positive way. And he asked her for a drink. And so he's, just like, "Hey, can you come serve me? But really, can you do me this kind of favor? Like, I'm in a place where I need you to help me." And so it's a different position than she would probably ever expect. And so Jesus starts all the conversation acknowledging her, which is already the first step into kindness. And so as we continue to think about what kindness looks like, I just noticed that Jesus took the first step here that she wasn't even expecting. And so um, uh, he continues on, and Jesus responds to her and says, "If you knew the gift of God, and who it is that is saying it to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, um, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. So now he's offering her water. So he's like, listen, if you knew who I was, who I am, and if you knew who I am, and you like came up to me and you saw me at a well, you would be asking me for a drink. And then she kind of like looks around, and I don't know how big this well is, but I kind of have to imagine she has to do like the like a look around, like like she's genuinely curious, right? Like she has to be like, but you don't have any way to like you don't have a bucket, like you don't have a way to get water, and so it's weird. It's like offering it's like when a child offers you an imaginary drink and you don't even have a cup. It's like, okay, I have to fake drinking tea and fake the fact that I have a cup right now. Is that the game we're playing right now? And so it just doesn't make sense to her. She would feel confused, probably a little bit silly. It'd probably feel like goofy in the context, like awkward for her. And then she responds and she says, "Are you greater than our father Jacob? He gave us this well and drank from himself, and as did his sons and his livestock." So she's like, "If you're offering me water, are you saying that that's different than this water? Are you saying that you're better than Jacob, who is like one of the most important people to like the faith of the Samaritans?" They're like their claim is Jacob. Like that's not that he's God or he's a descendant of God or anything like that, but they're like, dude, Jacob is like our dude. Um, and so they're having this big problem right now. So it's like, are you saying you're bigger than Jacob? Because that's like a really big claim to her. Um, and so she continues on and says, Jesus says back to her, sorry, "Everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again. Whoever drinks of the water that I give will never be thirsty again. Sorry, but whoever drinks of the water that I give will never be thirsty again. The water that I give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water, so that I not be thirsty or have to come here to draw water." So Jesus is really metaphorical, right? So Jesus is not actually offering her water. He's saying, listen, I'm offering you eternal life. If you knew who I was, you'd understand I'm offering you eternal life. But she doesn't quite get the metaphor in the moment. She's like, listen, I want this water. And so, um, and so Jesus decides to kind of transition the conversation here, and then he says, "Go, call your husband and come here." And Jesus gets a little sly here because he knows that she doesn't actually have a husband, and so he's like, "Hey, come call your husband." She's like, "Well, I don't have a husband," and then Jesus is like, "Boom! I know you don't have a husband. You actually had multiple husbands before, and you currently live with a guy who is not your husband." And it's like, okay, like it's spill the tea time with Jesus because like he is just laying out all of her mess right now at this well when she's just trying to get water. Like it's like the most normal conversation, and he's just like, "Hey, listen, let's talk about your life right now and all the things you've gone through," which, in context, is one of the reasons she is an outcast. So this is not only Jesus acknowledging her dirt. This is saying like, listen, I kind of know why you're in this. I know why you're getting water in the middle of the day. I know why you're here. And so it makes it even bigger that Jesus is acknowledging her and talking to her. Because he knows the reason that the people in the city aren't going to want to talk to her, or she's ashamed of and she's hiding. And so this kindness is crazier because he knows her mess, and he's still like trying to acknowledge her and bring her into this incredible conversation about living water. And so her response is basically is this that she basically calls him a prophet. She's like, "Sir, I perceive that you're a prophet. Listen, you don't get your life, spit out for you. It's like, hey, I remember in third grade when you did this, and in fifth grade when you did that, and then I remember in seventh grade when you were this way, and then your junior year you did this, and it's like, oh, you obviously know a lot that I haven't told you, so there's something different back then to be different. You would just typically say, then you're a prophet. And so she knows now that something is up. And so she then says this: "Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you say that in Jerusalem that is the place where people ought to worship." Jesus said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem will you worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we know, for salvation is from the Jews. But the hour is coming, and now is here, when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for the Father is seeking such people to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth." This woman said to him, "I know that Messiah is coming, he who is called Christ. When he comes, he will tell us all things." Jesus said to her, "I who speak to you am he." And so the conversation, when she now realizes that he's a prophet, that he's somewhat religious, she switches the conversation to religion. And then she's like, hey, so you guys, you Jews, you believe this, and hey, us Samaritans, we believe this, and so like let's talk about that, and that's the conversational shift. And then she mentions Messiah, and then Jesus is like, listen, I am that, I am the Messiah, and so that's a big claim. And so this is again, this is not just like a normal conversation that would happen. This is a conversation that would never happen outside the context of Jesus. And then more so, it's never a conversation that would happen with a woman and a man, and then it's never a conversation that would happen with a Jew and a Samaritan, and it's also never a conversation that can happen unless it is Jesus. And Jesus chose to choose a woman who is rejected by civilization to say, this is who I am the Messiah, I'm the one who has now come. It's a big deal. And so this is a bold claim by Jesus, and it's a dangerous claim in a lot of places as well. And so when Jesus gives his claim to her, he's demonstrating like, listen, I think you're worth telling this information to. You're the one that I want to give this information to. And so they're going to continue on in this moment. And the disciples come back, and they marvel that that he was talking with a woman, but no one said, what do you seek, or why are you talking with her? So they come back. The Walmart run is over. The disciples come back, and they see Jesus talking to a woman, a Samaritan woman. And I want to point out that the context is they're like, why is he talking to a woman? It's not why is he talking to a Samaritan woman. It's why is he talking to a woman? And so again, she is just in a position where this is not a normal conversation. Jesus is going out of the ordinary to talk to her. It's weird. It has to be emphasized by John when he's writing. It is emphasized by the disciples when they're interacting with it. It's a weird interaction. When the woman left her water jar and went away into town, saying to people, come see a man who told me all that I ever did. Can this be the Christ? They went out of town and they were coming to him. So she goes and she spreads the news. And she's like, listen, she left her water there. She's like, I don't even need it. This is a bigger news. I'm going to go out and I'm going to tell everyone I know. And then she kind of just attracts a crowd, and the crowd's kind of coming out of town to the well and to see Jesus. And I want to claim it's the Rudolph effect. So I have a theory that, it's not a theory, it's a thing, that Rudolph, right? So like the movie in Christmas, Rudolph is a reject, right? He's someone who just doesn't get any love. They don't let him play any reindeer games, right? And so, and then he has this interaction and he becomes wildly useful to the people. He has this moment where his value is discovered by the other reindeer. And then they kind of like listen, they're literally saying your name's going down in history. I yell yippee during yippee during the song. That's the whole thing, right? And so she has this moment, this Rudolph moment, basically, because Jesus interacts with her. Jesus says, listen, I'm going to interact with this woman who has no reason to go into town and talk to people. She's avoiding people. They are all in the city, and she is outside the city getting water at the hardest time to draw water. And now she's sprinting into town, talking to everyone that she can, and she's having this incredible moment. And then it ends up with this. Here's the end right here. It says, many Samaritans from that town believed in him because of the woman's testimony. He told me all that I ever did. So when the Samaritans came to him, they asked him to stay with them, and he stayed there for 2 days. And many more believed because of his word. They said to the woman, it is no longer because of what you said that we believe, for we have heard ourselves, and we know that this is indeed the Savior of the world. So that's what the kindness of Jesus does, though. He steps into a moment that seems ordinary, seems like nothing's going to happen. She has this routine. It's probably not her first time getting water at the hardest time of the day where she'd usually be alone. And so he steps into this moment that seems ordinary. People are in town and they're doing their own thing. And he interacts with this woman. He shows kindness to her. He acknowledges her, which is something that she wouldn't even expect anyway. And then he says, listen, I know what your mess is. I know coming into this conversation that you are living with a guy who's not your husband. I know you've had multiple husbands before. And that doesn't matter. I'm still going to ask you, and I'm still going to talk to you about religion. I'm still going to talk to you about this living water that's eternal life. I'm going to talk to you first. I could go into town, and I could preach, or I could do this, and I could do that. But I'm going to start with you. I'm going to start with the outcast of the Samaritan town, and I'm going to use you to then bring the whole city to me to hear about what I'm about. And so it's this incredible moment, but it only becomes reality because of the kindness of Jesus. And so I want to stress this. I want to stress that Jesus' kindness changes things. And it changes things because it's unexpected and it's incredible. And so that I started off with the question, this beginning of this lesson, which was, what is kindness and who do I need to show it to? And so I'm not going to give you a definition of kindness because I don't want to label you to something that you feel like that's what you need to do to be kind. Because Jesus was kind in a lot of ways. He healed people. He talked to people. He would have dinner with people who would never have dinner with someone of Jesus's caliber otherwise. He talks to a woman who then is able to go back into a city and has a great reputation with the town because he interacted with her first. So Jesus' kindness is kind of widespread. There is no real, this one moment is what Jesus does to exactly be kind. But it's unexpected, and it's different, and it's radical. And so Emily's going to come on, and she's going to talk about it. But my hope is that when we discuss Jesus' kindness, and we think about what Jesus did, and he was kind in so many other contexts, that how can we be kind? And I hope that we see that it's taking the first step. It's doing something that wasn't expected. It's like, well, they're going out of their way to do something that I'm not ready for, that I didn't think was going to happen, but they're doing it out of a kindness. They're acknowledging me. They're saying that I have value, that I'm worth discussing, or I'm worth talking to, sorry. And so it's this incredible moment that Jesus has with a Samaritan woman. That again, they have to emphasize in the writing. John has to say, listen, it's weird that this is happening. And the disciples come back and say, this is weird that it's happening. But Jesus knew from the beginning that when he started this conversation with this woman, that he was about to change her life in a really great way because he was going to show her kindness and show her love and say that you have value and you are the person I want to start this movement with in this town. And so again, Emily's going to come on and give you a couple ways that you can be, a couple specific ways. But I'm really glad that you've watched, and I hope that you continue to think about what is kindness and who you can be kind to.
Hey guys, so this week Eli talked about the importance of kindness, and this is one of my most favorite lessons, I think, because kindness has played such an important role in my life and in my relationship with Jesus and in how other people treated me with kindness made a world of difference and when I was in my lowest points and really changed how I viewed Jesus and how I viewed other people. And it's something that because of the way people treated me with kindness it has impacted how I view and treat other people. And we really hope that this lesson does the same thing for you guys and encourages you to show kindness to other people and how important it really is. We this week want to challenge you guys to do a random act of kindness. And I know that's kind of hard right now because you can't really go out and be around people, but the easiest, most tangible way to do that right now is to send out a letter. And I know it's old fashioned and you may have never had to send out a letter in your life, but ask your parents. I probably still know how to get you a stamp and all that good stuff. But we want to encourage you to find someone who you're either missing or who can use some encouragement right now and write them a kind letter just to lift them up. You can even find some Bible verses to put in there for them, just something to brighten their day during this time. And then we want you guys to send it out this week. And make sure that you are showing kindness to those around you, because this acts of kindness can really change how people view you, how people view Christ, and it can make a world of difference in someone coming to find a relationship with Jesus. So we hope that you take this lesson to heart. We, in the same note, want to show kindness to you guys this week. So make sure you guys are looking in your mailboxes this week, and you'll probably find something from us to you guys. We just want to be able to show kindness to y'all and let you know that we love you and we miss you guys so much. So we hope you guys are all doing well, and we can't wait until we're able to meet back together again. But in the meantime, we hope you do this challenge, and we'll see you guys next week.